For a transcript of this episode, training plans, and more, visit marathonsfortherestofus.com. So today's question is, how do I keep from feeling guilty for time spent away from my family during marathon training? And the answer to this question, of course, probably depends a fair amount on how supportive your family is of your marathon training and your running in general. But with that in mind, I do have a few suggestions of how to make this a little bit less disruptive for your life, for you and your family, and hopefully allow you to feel less guilty about it as well. So I think the first thing that it's important to remember is that we all have hobbies and we all need time to ourselves. So the fact that you're going to have some time to yourself during marathon training where you're not around your family is not inherently something to feel guilty about. Obviously, if it's getting to a point where it's impacting your family life, then you need to do something about it. But don't feel like just because you're doing something for yourself that that's automatically a reason that you need to feel guilty. So with that in mind, I do have a couple suggestions of how you can reduce the guilt that you feel for missing family time to do marathon training. And the first is simply to minimize the frequency that you miss family time. And I'm always thinking about this in terms of the weekends and the long run. And so if you're meeting a group right now every single weekend for your long run, that can be a lot of missed family time and can certainly lead to some feelings of guilt. But I think if you're meeting your group for just the really long training runs, right, where you're increasing the distance to the longest that you've done during that training cycle, then that's a much more reasonable amount of time to be away from the family, because you really should only be doing those longer training runs every 2 to 4 weeks. So now instead of missing, say, every Saturday morning, you're only missing one every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. And I think that can be a much more manageable compromise for you and your family if this is something that you're struggling with. Now, the other way that you can minimize this is to, say, commit to only one marathon per year rather than trying to train for multiple marathons. So that way, these long training runs on the weekends, you're only doing them for, say, 4.5 months, 18 weeks or so, rather than doing them all year round. And if you've got sort of this compartmentalized thing where you can say, this is my marathon training season, it can be much easier mentally to not feel guilty about being gone if you know that it's not all year round. I think the second approach of how you can minimize that guilt is to try to find ways to get your family more involved with your running. And that could be that they help you out with the long runs where the kids are riding bikes along with you to help keep you company, or it could be that they're driving along the route and either leaving water bottles for you or meeting you for your water stops to cheer you on. Again, that may not be something that your kids want to do every week, but for your really long training runs, that can be a great way to help them feel like part of the process rather than just something that you go off and do on your own. And of course, most of these marathons that you're running also have family 5Ks or 10Ks or something like that along with it. So if the kids or your significant other who isn't training for the marathon wants to train for some of those other races, that's a great opportunity to make it a fun family event rather than just something that you're doing on your own. And granted, now their training runs may not take nearly as long as yours do, but knowing that Saturday morning is long run day and we're all going to do our long run, whatever that is a great way to feel like this is family time even if you're not together the whole time. Ultimately, I think if you're feeling guilt about the time that you're spending away from your family for marathon training, it's really important to talk to your significant other or talk to your family, depending on how old your kids are, and understand what they're feeling and where they're coming from. This may be something that you're feeling that they don't mind at all, and therefore you're sort of beating yourself up for something that you don't even really need to change. And if it is something that they are on the same page with you about, it's much easier to go out there and, run your run the way that you want to do it, the way that you're supposed to do it, be comfortable with it without feeling like you're screwing anything up in terms of family time. So coming up with a plan, whatever that is for you and your family, is probably going to be the biggest step you can take here, but hopefully some of these other suggestions will help give you some ideas of what that plan can include. I hope that this was helpful. If you have suggestions for other episodes, leave them in the comment section below and let me know what you think of this one as well. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.